So, hello everyone. Welcome to Spiritus Matinum, and we are studying the book Empty Lives by the Spirit Joanna de Angelis, a psychography of the medium Divaldo Franco. We are on chapter 6, and as I always like to remind everyone, each chapter brings a different topic. So if you're just joining today, uh, you will get the whole the whole thing, the topic that we are studying. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Last week, actually, we started the studying this item because, as we know, the studies by Joanna de Angelis are normally very deep, and so it's important for us to take the time to analyze them. And our idea here is not to be in a hurry to finish everything um, quickly, but actually to be able to benefit from everything that she's putting into the texts that is presented to us. So again, the book is Empty Lives, and you can buy it at Leal Publisher or Amazon. So the lesson that we started last week, it was about coexistence. I'm going to give just a brief summary of the first part, and then we are going to go to the second part that is our topic today. So Joanna de Angelis presents the idea of the importance for us to coexist. We understand by the Spirit's book, for instance, that we live, one of the subdivisions of the natural laws is the law of society, implying that as human beings and considering the stage of evolvement that we find ourselves, we depend on one another. We need the different talents that different people will have. But having said that, even when we understand that we cannot just go on and live by ourselves, except with a very few exceptions that perhaps decide to lead more of a lonely hermit kind of way life, we all understand that we need the force, the strength, the ability, the commitment, the work of different people for us to live, which does not mean that we are going to be appreciating of their values or that we are going to feel that they could become our friends. And unfortunately, much less that we are all brothers and sisters when we think that we are all children of God. So the goal is that to understand that we are all brothers and sisters, and like a big family, we will benefit from what each one can bring to contribute for the common good. And so in our relationships, be that whatever nature they are, it can be among spouses, partners, among friends, among, grandmothers and, and granddaughters and daughters and children and colleagues at work and your boss, or if you're your employees. This is the same thing. When we have to trust people, we have to understand that very much like ourselves, we come from different backgrounds, not necessarily just considering our incarnation here on earth, but even considering our lives as spirits. We had different experiences. We learn faster or slower than others. And many times when we start a relationship, it's more like we are, conducting a deal, a negotiation. Like, if you're like this, if you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. If you give me that, I'll give that to you. So it's more like, a negotiation. And of course, with that comes an expectation. And quite often, we may see ourselves disappointed with the reactions and what the others can actually give to us. Maybe I'm trying to remember one phrase that it's never meet your idols, because there will always be a disappointment, something like that. Okay, because sometimes, you know, you have an idol thinking, oh, this is the perfect person, right? And then you meet them, and especially if you get there in one of those bad days, and you will see that it has nothing to do with the image you created. And why is that? Because we ourselves, and this is another point that Joanna de Angelis explains here in this first part, that we all, because we kind of imagine that society is only going to accept us if we conduct ourselves in a certain behavior, if we dress a certain way, we use masks. And sometimes this persona that we reflect ourselves takes hold or takes control of who we really are, to the point that we ourselves bury so deep what we are and what we desire, that we start living very much like, you know, a movie start preparing for a role in the cinema, and then they put aside what they are just to, you know, immerse in that experience. And during a certain period of time, they just think like, you know, that character would think. So we have been doing that a lot, and this, no wonder why sometimes when, for whatever reason that is going to trigger our true self, our true behavior, it may not be exactly what others are expecting. So everyone, for instance, feel entitled to be themselves in the household, meaning if I feel like being rude, if I feel like screaming, if I feel about, you know, not being nice, I'm entitled because I'm in my household. And no, we are not entitled to do that just because it's a household. And this is where she comes to the point at the first part of this chapter, where she mentions the importance of family, saying this is where we learn how to behave. This is where we learn how to have this, or to establish a dynamic of living in the same home with different people, different spirits, because we are not talking here about education. Okay, we may have all doctors in the house, but still each one of them is going to be a different person. They may have the same profession, the same inclination for medicine, but not necessarily for all the rest. So this is where she says we will be able to exercise our behavior to the world. That's why sometimes, you know, and it's really, unfortunately, quite common when we say, you know, I go along better with people outside my home than in my house. And this is true, but it doesn't mean that we should not make an effort, or that we should not understand them. We cannot make true friends through or flow through affection for those who do not have that much affinity with us, except from the bonds of flesh. But it's still, it is an exercise to, when you meet this kind of person, of people outside of your house, that you should treat with respect, that you should treat as if they were a family member. And this is where she covers that part of, you know, wisdom in terms of coexistence. So before we start the second part, I would like to know if there is any comment or anything that you would like to add from last week, just to clarify some points, or any questions, and then we go ahead.
This point of to learn inside our family, And nowadays we can see so many disturbances inside the families then, and it's understandable people are not able to have a health relationships with others, because the point we should learn, the lessons are not good at all in most of families. So many problems they going through them.
Mhm.
It's
Yes,
something,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's something to think about. I think it's open our vision to understand better about others, why others not behave well.
Yeah, I think it's important for us, considering your comment, to remember that we are living very difficult times. Everyone is going through struggle one way or another, or even if you're not going, it's impossible to not to be contaminated for whatever else is happening around you. We have wars, we have pandemias, we have injustice, we have prejudice. Unless we live completely isolated from, life in society, there is no way we will not feel the impact of everything that is happening. Apart from what every one of us is going through, and how we are dealing with that. And since we are talking about family, maybe you're not going through that yourself, but a loved family member is going through something, and of course you're going to be impacted by that as well. So in this sense, we are all kind of behaving like the hurt lion that has a thorn in its paw. And because of the pain, because of the struggles, we we haven't been that nice in behaving overall. And like I said before, unfortunately for many of us, we think, okay, if I cannot be myself, among these four walls, where can I be myself? But if it be yourself means being rude, being destructive, it's better not to be yourself. It's better for you to wear your mask, to put a persona, and do it like this. But when we think about it, the way Joanna de Angelis brings, and I always like to refer to the book Family Constellation by Joanna de Angelis as well, and Divaldo Franco, we we have to understand that this is the microcosmos that we live, that we allow us to understand and actually to be able to become a productive part in the macrocosmos that is, the entire earth and all its citizens. And like I said, it's not about loving necessarily, having the person that is connected to you by blood being, the person you admire most or you love most, but always remember, it's a child of God that deserves my respect, and it's acting out of ignorance, is acting out because of pain, it is acting out, because it's not yet where I am. What we should pay a lot of attention, though, is, well, I cannot uh, declare myself to be ignorant anymore. Okay, not that we are super smart. I'm not saying that, but that we understand everything about the life of a spirit, about ourselves. But we know enough. We know enough, and we've been reading enough, we've been participating in studies enough, we've been meditating about it enough, we've been making our personal contact with the spiritual presence enough. So the point is, how am I behaving? Okay. I know there are people that loves confrontation and that are going to test our patience to the limit. Okay, stay a bit farther away. Don't obliviate the person from your life. Accept with the imperfections that the person has, but whenever possible, because of our reactions, you can teach more than just if you are preaching. I love one phrase that we have by a very dedicated spiritist, and he was used to say that we have to pay more attention to our reactions than our actions, because actions normally, imply us reflecting, establishing strategies. Not necessarily they are just an impulse, last minute impulse. Reactions normally are last minute impulse. Is when we show our true colors, is when later on we are going to regret what we did, we said, or what we didn't do. So this, in terms of when thinking about it, we should be very careful in this kind of relationship. Okay, your family member has nothing to do with any kind of a spiritual journey. You don't need to talk about it. Talk about something else. Find common grounds. Listen to their own interest, and they may be very good as well. They are not just in this avenue, but they may be in a different course that it's interesting as well. So this is what we should be doing in order to coexist. And if we have to coexist in the world, we have to coexist even more in the home. Okay, nobody is saying here that it's not difficult. Okay, this is why we are each time more preparing ourselves. Better late than never, right? And even when we fail, we pick ourselves up again and say, next time is going to be better, and commit to that. Okay, so let's read a bit from the second part. The Gospel of Jesus is the most complete treatise for forming the social character of human being. Entirely based on individual effort for achieving inner illumination, it provides the right tools for the intellectual and moral growth needed for one to evolve. Nowhere do its maxims, constituted of edifying guidelines, propose a refusal of love and kindness in any circumstance. Jesus' parables, born in everyone's daily life, are vivid and lively stories that teach and promote the treasures of benevolence and the contribution of unique examples for harmony and moral growth. The achievements provided by science and technology are invaluable, but without the experience of fraternal love, existential emptiness marks people's lives and leads to loneliness, to pride due to considering oneself better and smarter than others, if not more lucid and capable of doing and imitating everything. As you consider the intellectual achievements of your progress, do not abandon or disregard the excellent lessons of the good news, which remain unsurpassed in confrontation with philosophical schools that seem to appease the individual, but which actually anesthetize the sentiments and give an outer glow without content of harmony. Coexistence is a science and a behavioral art that entails continuous learning. Okay, so now she's proposing to us to examine the teachings of Jesus that we find in the Gospels as related by the apostles. So she's saying, go beyond the words. Transport yourself to the times where Jesus was living and think about how he conduct himself in the various situations of life, where he found for certain people that lead bad lives, that were oppressors, conquerors, that were rebellious to the situations they were. But in no circumstances he was proposing any kind of confrontation. He would always come with peaceful solutions. When Jews came to him, complaining about having to pay tax to Rome, and expecting that Jesus would side with them and go into a rebellion and foment a behavior of disgust before the Romans and their idols, Jesus said, what is the face that we see in the coin? So it belongs to him. It doesn't belong to us. It's much more than just, using common sense and logic. He's saying we are fighting for something that do not belong to us. And it's not with fighting that we are going to solve any kind of problem. Of course, we will find people that because of their capability, intellectual capabilities, they will look down on those that do not have the same kind of, knowledge. But the one that you look at and say, this person has no knowledge, maybe this person can be wiser than we are. And at this point, when knowledge is not what it is required for you to deal with the situations of life, but wisdom is, who is the wealthiest one? So intellectual achievements is very important for the common good, because we were talking about coexistence, right? So to help us as a whole, as inhabitants of this planet, to find better conditions for us to live. I think this has been an eternal fight for women, right? Because the work of the women up to recent it was not valued. The administration of the house, the children, what they are going to provide as nourishment for their spouses, right? And all of that was not valued, because according to our values is only what you do outside the home, and when it represents a monetary gain that you are going to value. And now we are seeing a generation that have been, in many cases, deprived of a more constant presence of the mother in the education of their children. And they are not becoming more compassionate or even more independent. So here, of course, we are not talking about saying that the place of the woman is in the home, okay? Please don't understand me wrong. We are talking about balance, and we are talking about choices if the woman decides to go and work outside the house, great, but do not overlook the commitments they have when they assumed a household. And the same goes for the husband. If they decided to be home, like today, some of them decide to be home, and the woman is the one that is working, it's good as well. But if they decided to work, both of them are working, do not overlook the fact that we cannot give to a third party the education of your children. So we all going to say, oh, no, it's because of money, because of the resources. Okay, but find balance in that, okay? And find nobility in everything. There is a lot of nobility of, giving yourself to the education and to the harmony of your home from both sides. And so fortunately, we are reaching each time more a balance where everyone contributes. So when Jesus was talking about that, and he always trying to relate even more with the people of his time, he would use the resource of parables, little stories that would deal with their day-to-day lives, that would be more familiar and would be easier to apprehend than just giving teachings and coming with a more scientific approach of things. Any questions, comments?
Hello.
Yes.
As soon as I get it right. Okay. Now that you can hear me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the education of the children, and the conversation seems to divide it between the parents. However, as I look back at my experience going through education in New York City, a huge part of that education comes outside of the home. And I look at it from the events that take place and the things that happen to the individual and the things the individual looks at and sees. And I know in my case, there are many things that happened that could have driven me to do things that are against the society. And I think, when I was very young, I was in a store where in a little grocery store, very small one, like not quite a candy store, but it had groceries in it. And the kids were stealing things. And I got the idea, well, if they're doing it, why shouldn't I? So I picked up something. I got away with it. But from that point on, maybe something in the home told me that's not the way to go. And I gave it up. But when you see a lot of children your age and older doing things, you have a tendency to follow them. And that's an easy one to handle for the individual. But there are many other things that happen between school and traveling around to get to home and other things that we do that are not so easy to handle. And it has a marked impact on the individual. And quite often they have no idea who they can confide in to get help.
Mhm.
And these are, I think, equal to the pressures in the home. So, and I don't have this in a nice compact form that I can give you an answer. But I see so much through life that impacts the individual and drives them to do other things. But it depends heavily on their own internal morale or moral to correct that action. And many, as we see in society, many don't make it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Philip, while you're talking about it, I was still remember that saying, it takes a village, right? So we don't want to place the burdens only on the parents, but understanding that, of course, the parents are the primary care of the child, whether this child is a natural born child, is an adopted child, is a foster care child, it doesn't matter. Once you have embraced the responsibility of raising a child, you have to have this commitment. And I think, you know, all the reflections, and nowadays that people are more open, and, you know, psychology is there to help us in this kind of reflections as well. Like you said, remembering that even if we cannot be full-time with our children, which wouldn't be beneficial anyway, they have to learn the coexistence themselves. It's very healthy to go to school. It's very healthy to have different teachers and start at an early age to, you know, to deal with all that, even when it's hard. But if you return to your home and you have you know, a home that you will be blessed with the necessary assistance you need. Of course, some has more than others, some have none. It is important. You see, I was thinking also when you were talking about the way we teach our children, what we teach our children about work, because many parents, they work complaining. I'm not happy with the work. I just go to work because I need money, and everything's about money. I return home and I'm too tired to play because, you know, work. And I mean, how come this child is not going to be raised kind of traumatized and expecting the worst from the home, the work or work environment? Because there is always colleagues, because I have to be sit in a cubicle. How do I say that?
Cubicle.
all day long. And so do you see the subliminal, and not that much subliminal actually, that we are teaching our children? Forget about, you are not going to be happy in work. And then we say, I want you to follow my profession. So if you have a dentist in the family, the one of them is a dentist, they say, I want you to become a dentist. But my God, how I wanted to become a dentist when you come home every day complaining about, you know, your work environment, you having to be there, standing up all the time to work on the mouth of people and this and that. You see the incoherence that we have. But now it becomes more obvious, I think. And like I said, all the system nowadays, not only from the spiritual values, but to life in society, pedagogical takes and psychological ones are helping us. But the thing coming back here to what we are saying is we are equals. Okay, it's not this garment, this physical body that is going to dictate what we can or cannot do in life. So this, you know, the prejudice and lack of equality, all of that should never be part of our society, especially in the 21st century. But in the same way, that we are, confirming or saying all of this, we have to understand that we have our responsibilities. Okay, you don't feel cut up to be to have a single partner in your life, a single spouse in your life. Okay, it's not required that you follow this kind of life. To educate children, is not required. But once we have a family, we make a family of our own besides the one that we are born, we have obligations. We have to understand that, in fact, they are the gifts that God has gave us to be able to learn the behavioral aspects of life. And with that, grow in patience, in compassion, in understanding, in love, in forgiveness, in forgetfulness, in all of those things that actually represent the virtues that we have to go through. Let me read a little bit more. Let me see. Okay. A treatment that is directed to one person is not always successful when applied to others. Here meaning there is no formula that is going to fit everyone. Okay, I cannot just get a round shape and say the whole humanity has to be perfect in this round shape. Maybe I'm square, I'm a triangle. Okay, I'm not a circle. It doesn't mean that I'm less valuable than the ones that are circle. So, and this is one thing that sometimes, we want to impose. No, my formula is working beautifully for me. Why don't you do like I do? Because I'm not you. Okay, and I'm not saying that yours is bad, but to me, it's not the best. Okay, the best way to identify, now I remember for those who know me well, right? Everyone or many people, when they think about a birthday cake, they will think about what? A chocolate birthday cake. I think about strawberry shortcake. Chocolate is not my dream birthday cake. So is chocolate worse than the other one? Or is the other one better than the other one? No, it's just a matter of taste. They are both cakes, they are both delicious, but you have preferences, right? And it doesn't mean that because your preference is different than mine, that yours is not good as well, or that mine is the best one. Okay, the best way to identify what pleases each individual is to respect his or her individuality, making coexistence enjoyable so that relationships may be edifying and fruitful. All individuals want to improve themselves and become unique, which for gregarious necessity is understandable. The best friends are those who help each other to evolve, who contribute each other's inner reform, and as a result, each other's spiritual enlightenment. Unwholesome topics, critical or denigrating conversations, matters that reveal pride and prejudice are harmful from any point of view, making it clear that the one engaged in such behavior will likewise be crucified by the same pertinacious criticism when not present for any reason. Happy coexistence is food for the soul, which is nourished with joy and experiences the warmth of others, even in times of difficulties. Let's take, times such as the one we are living now, time for the holidays, okay, where most religions, philosophy, in one way or another, celebrate an important holiday, something that mark their the lives of their ancestors and themselves as well. And normally, because this is a time that should reflect, more compassion, more giving, this is the way that we feel, right? So now I'm going to be kind with the postman, with the person that packs my groceries at the store, with my employees, with my family members. It is a time that everyone is reminded to that, you know, they have to be nicer. Why can't we do that all the time? Like I like the phrase "fake till you make it." Even if it doesn't come from the heart, when I say a good morning to someone with a smile, even if I'm doing that just out of, you know, this is what the world is expecting, the response that I may have, which is a goodbye, a good night or a good day with a smile as well, will trigger something in me. Like, oh my God, it's nice to feel that wave of energy that comes from a sincere person wishing you a good day. And we will be intoxicated in a good sense by this energy saying, I want more, I want more. And when you least expect, you're no longer just saying that because society requires you to do that, but because you really want to send that bomb of energy that you are receiving and be replenished by what comes from it. Sometimes people are not even going to reply, but since we are what we are sending, I cannot send love, I cannot send kindness if I don't have it. I already have it. And I'm connecting directly with the source, the divine source that is providing me with more. Because love is never divided, it's always multiplied. The more you give, it's like, you know, when you dig in a hole, and it seems that the sand is always there. The sand it's always going to be replenished. We will not be deprived just because we are giving. On the contrary, we will have it at each time more. Any comment, question?
Yeah, it's the passing of people on the street. I'm always watching their eyes and judging whether making a positive comment to them, like good day or happy new year or something, whether or not that will be accepted. And at times, if I get the feeling that they wouldn't come back negative, I'm surprised at times that they come back very positive. But there's so many people who walk by who, when they see you on the street, the first thing they look at is the ground. So they're not in contact. And you wonder what, you know, whether it's even prudent to speak to them.
And you see, while you were talking, I was seeing a scene of those people that we meet in the street that sometimes we don't even verbalize anything, but we see that they are really living a very difficult moment in struggle or unbalanced. And sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, or we don't feel like saying anything. But just by the fact of sending them, you know, a good vibration, a prayer, talking to their guardian angels and saying, protect this soul that I can see suffering so much, it can be enough for the benefactors to find a gap, a breach, to reach this person that is completely surrounded by shadows. And I think that sometimes even the looking down can be commanded by spirits that do not want your energy reaching them. In any case, it's so much more powerful than we can imagine. Just a wish, a wave of light that will go into their direction may be the tiny passage that the benefactors will need to start acting upon the person. So I would say keep on doing that. Even when the result is not evident to us, we will make possible to provide a path for sources of goodness to reach them. Sonia, you were going to say something before? No.
Just comment about this last sentence. The happy coexistence is a food for the soul. Then it's so nice because many times, because the people are so different than us, then we try to be far from them, and then there is no evolution, no confrontation, no everything, and then probably no happy coexistence, because we need the others as a food for our soul. Then everything counts.
It's interesting that Joanna de Angelis used this terminology, right? Because who doesn't like food, right? Who doesn't relate to a good plate of food, the food of your choice, right? And how it makes you feel. So she's materializing to something that we understand what it represents for our soul. Oh my God. I can get that for my soul as well. How can I do that? Okay. So let's read the final paragraph here, the two last paragraphs. Even since Jesus was on the earth, he has modulated the song of universal love and at all times, and has profoundly touched his sincere disciples, making their lives happy. Do not alienate yourself from the incomparable formulations of the gospel. Seek to participate in the fruitful banquet of coexistence, in the endeavor of renovating the human landscapes of today with your thoughts set on the glorious days of tomorrow that await you. Once more, a reference to a banquet, right? That means celebration, that means be fulfilled, that means having all these resources, right? That is going to be presented in a banquet. And the thing is, I think that her final words here is like she's saying to us, I know coexistence is not easy. I suffered that myself in the many incarnations that I was in the world, but it's a right path to go. And each time more, as grown-ups, we will understand the silliness that we had in our behaviors before. Like when we think about two friends, young people, children, young people, that when they come to their adult life, they come to the realization that maybe they didn't treat one that nice as it should, or the silly things or the silly fights they had, and they laugh about it. Because, oh my God, remember that day that we fight for the same girl or boy or whatever, and we stayed without speaking for 3 months or 6 months, and it changed our, oh my God, how silly we were, right? Or just because we were chose for something in the school when I was not, and I was envious. So we look back and you see how silly those behaviors were, and that they were not the most important things in our life compared to what we can see nowadays. So I think she's kind of telling us, do not stop there just because you are not receiving from the world what we expect. So our mission is to do that ourselves, to work on ourselves as individuals. And sooner than we expect, if everyone is doing their homework, we will have a better world. It's not for me here to be saying you should behave this way, or criticizing, or not contributing. It's for me to do my work and to become an example and a guide to those who want to do the same. So I think it's a very beautiful lesson, and a very beautiful one for us to reflect, especially considering that this is a time of the year that most of us are going to stay with family or very close friends that we will consider family, understanding and remembering that they are living their time, not my time. And if there are people that are living their time that are better than you, pay attention to them and try to learn from them how to get there faster. Okay, so for next topic is going to be about scandals. Okay, all right. Okay, so if anyone have any final comment or anything they would like to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it's not easy for some relationships, and many times we need to use our mask a little bit to balance the moment, for the harmony in moments. Then, but I believe it's so important never to always to keep in touch what is inside our heart, and all this lesson and everything. Then, and to keep it follow this path. Sometimes not easy. No, it's not easy, but don't deviate the right path. This is most important for us to know.
And it's just perfect that this lesson came through, Dusada. You bring it at the perfect timing of what we're now begin to celebrate our Christ's birth, and how important it is to understand that we are brothers and sisters. And there's importance of understanding this, because we are one family, and this family consists of so much differences and understanding each other. But with this, continuous giving us this open window that we're all different and we all come with our own, but that we're here to work at it the best way we can. We have so much to fall on and work with. We're given so much that there can't be any excuse if we really look deep inside of our hearts. There's work to be done, and we should know this by now, a bit at a time, and understand that we're all family, living with different, like you explained, different spirits in all different persons. So we thank you for this beautiful lesson. It's perfect for our days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.